The ABB FIA Formula E World Championship is back for round 9 of the series here at the Tokyo E-Prix outside the exhibition centre. Qualifying is about to begin in a few moments' time, and if you're unsure what that means, let's check in with the world feed.
Lights out and we're racing.
The race distance is fixed by a set number of laps.
The first driver to cross the finish line takes maximum points with a bonus point for the fastest lap.
The race start is always epic. The fastest accelerating single-seater race cars on the planet hurtling into turn 1, drama guaranteed.
Best bit for me, it has to be attack mode.
Drivers activate attack mode by moving off the racing line and passing through the activation zone. This unlocks more grip and an extra 50 kilowatts of power, giving the drivers the edge they need to attack or defend.
And in Season 11, we introduce Pit Boost. What is it? Simply put, it's a mandatory, ultra-fast, energy-boosting pit stop, which adds, in just 30 seconds, 10% of energy into the car's battery.
And after 16 wheel-to-wheel races, the driver with the most points will be crowned Formula E World Champion.
It's round 9 of
TNT Sports.
its place. Heat and humidity. What a race we are expecting here this afternoon. But first of all, we've got to decide the grid. 22 of the world's best drivers in the fastest single-seater electric racing cars in the world. What is going to happen as lights go out this afternoon? And crucially, what's going to happen in our first qualifying session of the weekend? Yesterday, it was rained off. Today, we get a proper chance to see who will line up where and what is going to happen here. Practice this morning saw Pascal Wehrlein being fastest after failing to finish in the points yesterday. Can he turn that, though, into a pole position? Would be his third of the 2025 season. My name is Tom Brooks. Alongside me, Andre Lotterer and James Rossiter here to guide you through the action. James, FP3 this morning was quite interesting, but there's a talk about tyres going into this first group qualifying session.
Yeah, obviously with yesterday being wet, I believe that there was the opportunity for some of the drivers to save a new set of tyres, not run them, let's say, yesterday in the wet and continue running on the old tyres, and have a new set for this qualifying session.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So the group stages of qualifying, if you're new to Formula E, we have 11 drivers in each group, Group A and Group B. The top 4 from each of those groups will progress forwards at the end of this session. They'll go through into what we call the dual stages. So you get an extra 50 kilowatts of power and you get all-wheel drive in those advance forwards from the quarterfinals into the semi-finals, then the semis into the finals to decide who lines up where, and crucially, who will get pole position and 3 points for the E-Prix this afternoon. This is Oliver Rowland, championship leader by 60 points, but he was slowest this morning in FP3.
Yeah, he probably didn't do a 350 kilowatt lap, focusing completely onto getting into the duels, and if he gets in there, he'll figure it out later. I think make sure they know how it feels, because it's quite a big difference with the 350 kilowatt and the four-wheel drive. You arrive much faster, more traction.
I'm guessing these guys are probably triple builded now.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get from their spying, but I guess that as well.
So now they're talking about how to prep their lap. So you call it an out lap, a prep, maybe another prep lap. And this is all the work they have been doing in the simulator, learning about the tires, and then estimating the grip level of the track as well, plus the temperatures, and finding the optimum for the tires. So some tracks you could do out, build, push. Some tracks you need out, build, push. So let's see who figures that out the best. And especially on the new tires, there's a peak, which is normally not the case for qualifying, but because it was wet, everyone has a new set of tires, and let's see who gets the maximum out of it.
So not only with the build laps, but also we have cool laps. So when you do 2 builds or 3 builds, a build lap is bringing the tyre into the correct window. You then get 1 lap to absolutely nail it on a push lap. You then have to spend 2 laps cooling the tyres down, getting the surface temperature down, more in line with the bulk of the tyre, in order to get that peak grip back in the correct window, and then you get another push. And I think we're going to see that second push being the one that counts in Group A.
It was interesting, actually, in free practice this morning, because we saw a lot of drivers focusing on 300 kilowatt laps, the group stages of qualifying.
They were going quite slow, very slow.
So
just increase and overtake the Jags if you think you need to put a bit more rhythm. We have 2 prep laps coming. Keep FP free.
Yeah, this is exactly what we were talking about, how they do the prep laps, and some want to do it a bit faster, some slower. But the problem will come if, for example, you're planning 2 prep laps, someone in front of you is planning only 1. That's fine, but the other way around, if you're only planning 1 and the car in front is planning 2, and then there's you have traffic and you can't optimize your ideal lap. So hopefully everyone is on the same strategy and there will be no bunching up in the last sector.
Yeah, the interesting thing is as well, it's much more difficult in this Group A to do that because you don't know what the right strategy is. So you're taking a bit of a risk with the strategy you go with. Group B, they can adjust and change their run plan after what they see, the people that go through to the dual face from Group A, the strategy that they put in place, they can then use that in Group B.
Do we think traffic's going to be a factor in this session? We saw in practice drivers getting caught up behind others. I know there were 22 cars on track, there's only 11 per group now, but there's a lot of blind and fast corners, especially in the final sector.
Well, I think the teams are monitoring closely who is doing what and trying to avoid being off sequence. So if they see that other cars are still on prep laps, I think they will shift to that. But for example, teams like Nissan won't be able to learn into Group B, or teams like Porsche, because they're both cars in the same group. So the teams that have a car in each group will benefit from that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This track a lot faster than it was 12 months ago because it's been reprofiled and resurfaced in a number of different areas. Namely, the first sector, that's been completely opened up and widened. And also, we've removed a chicane down at turn 16 as well. That's gone from being rather a slow section now to a very fast part of the lap where the circuit actually drops away. Speaking of dropping away, the track also drops away down through turn 2 and into turn 3. This is Jean-Eric Verne just pushing the limits a little bit here on his build lap.
I think that's his push lap. I think he's the first one out there on giving it a go.
Yeah, you're right.
And yeah, he's putting first 2 sectors best time, like 1.8 seconds faster than that. So let's see if other drivers follow the trend. I think he aborted. Maybe he just made a mistake or tested it a little bit to get confidence in the first sector and launching a lap again.
Yep, out of the final corner comes Jean-Eric Verne, so he'll start his push lap once more. Let's see how this is going to go. So 11 drivers in this one.
Okay, we are push next lap, push next lap.
So 11 drivers in this one, and you'd have to say the form book really, you'd expect the likes of the 2 Nissans to be through. They've been pretty quick in practice, Roland and Natto. Who else are we looking at though? Barnard, you'd say he's within a shout. Van Dorney won yesterday. Has he got the ultimate pace though to do something in that Stellantis-powered Maserati? What about the 2 Jaguars as well? They're a bit of a question mark at the moment. Evans and Cassidy have had a torrid 2025 so far.
Yeah, you're definitely looking at the 2 Nissans. Evans maybe has got a chance. We've seen flashes of speed from him this year. If he can string it all together, he could definitely have a chance to go through to the duels.
Yeah, Sebastian Buemi as well. Keep an eye out for him in the Envision. Pretty quick, but that was in the wet yesterday as Evans goes quickest. Lap time's now starting to come down into sort of the region we were expecting, into the 1:14s, 1:15s. It's amazing how quickly this session goes by. We're already over halfway through at this point now. What we have seen in previous sessions in the group stages is drivers going out doing 2 runs. So they'll go out, then they'll come into the pits, then they'll go out for 1 final run. Do you think we'll see that, or will they stay out for the majority of the session?
It's too short. There's not enough time to do that, unfortunately, here. What we will see is them driving slowly for a couple of laps after they've done this push lap. You see Oliver Rowland really hustling the car there in turn 15. He's coming into the fast turn 16. Don't brake too late. Carry as much speed as possible through here. And the tight chicane to finish the lap.
Wasn't happy with the car's balance in free practice earlier on. Let's see whether they've been able to turn some things around as Rowland comes to the timing line. Goes second quickest. Degrassi's just popped himself up, though, to the top of the pile in the Lola Yamaha Apt car.
That's really impressive from Lucas Degrassi. And, I mean, we saw him quite fast earlier on in the practice session this morning, but he didn't follow through with the time later on in the session. So early on, he was very quick. So maybe that form is there.
Yeah, Barnard, sorry, just really close to the wall there, Andre. Carry on.
Yeah, I think the key in this session is really to figure out how to use that new tire. And even if maybe you don't have the best car, but if you get the peak of the tire for that one lap, you can compensate.
Well, there's Sandberg on the right-hand side of your picture. He'll be going out in Group B in a few moments' time. He'll get a reference point with his teammate Taylor Barnard, who has a big snap of oversteer going into the penultimate corner and misses the apex by some margin. Let's see what Barnard can do as he comes to the timing line. Takes the position of 6th for now, 10th of a second away. That's not enough for him to make it through into the duels as it stands. Let's have another look. He's so close to the wall on the exit of turn 14, wasn't it?
Definitely not lacking any commitment there. But if you think about his little mistake in the last corner there, and he's only 2/10 off. So if he puts the lap together, definitely has the potential.
I love the confidence of this young man. He's just so enjoyable to watch. The way he throws the car around, the confidence he has in it, it's brilliant to see. And amazing from a rookie.
Yeah, certainly is. Here is Stoffel van Dorn, the winner of round 8 yesterday. His first win in 49 races.
Best lap 14.3 on the board. Sector 1, 5/10, Sector 2, 2/10, Sector 3, 10.5. 3/10 now, Sector 3, with people improving behind. So let's just build to it, put the rhythm you need second and third sector, and we maximize next push lap.
Oh, no, that's Evans into the wall! Down at turn 16, straight to the Tech Pro.
Yeah, Mitch Evans is into the wall and brings out the red flag and the exit of that turn 9 section straight into it. Rear suspension done, front suspension off as well. So, well, I was letting the group stages go to the world feed and be back for the duels with it being 2:29 a.m. Just exit of the back half of turn 9. Just gets the slide on. Complete rear tyre falls off. Take a listen.
Car at the run of turn 17, please pick up the speed. You can increase your speed.
Oh,
goodness
me. The Marshals were lucky there as well, and the rear tyre just came completely off the Jaguar, flew into the barrier and bounced back. That should not be allowed. The tyre should not come off that easily. Red flag is out then, session suspended, and Evans and the Marshals, and everyone was very, very lucky there.
Packed. So 3 minutes left of this session. The clock now stops here.
Yeah, all good. Sorry guys. Lost it at 16. Yeah, copy. We've seen it on tally. As long as you're okay.
So I was wrong.
Just follow the marshal's instructions.
The tyre is in one piece attached to the wheel. It was just, he lost the whole wheel.
Yeah. So, big moment there for Evans. The Tech Pro barrier, as I said, dissipating some of the impact. As he said, he's okay on team radio, but they're just waiting for confirmation that he can jump out of the car. Now, we've got 3 minutes left of this session. The clock has stopped, so this means there is going to be a frantic amount of action as soon as this session resumes. The cars are going to go out of the pit lane all together, and they've got to try and find some clear track because they're only going to get one flyer now.
Yeah, they want to go on an out push immediately. Maybe they have time for a second one, but I wonder if Evans will be able to keep his lap because he's in the duels at the moment. Let alone check if the team can repair the car, which I doubt.
No, normally if you cause a red flag in the session, they'll remove your fastest lap time. I mean, even if he was there, he won't be able to participate in the duels. So yeah, tough one for Mitch Evans and the Jaguar team. Another tough one, dare I say.
I know. It has been a disappointing season so far for Mitch Evans. Qualifying-wise, he's only had a few highlights in the sessions. Yesterday, he lined up 19th on the grid. Today, he's going to be lining up right at the very back of it, seemingly, as well. Let's have another look.
It just shows how difficult that corner is with coming down. Is really not what you want because you... And then suddenly the road comes down on you, and yeah, you're trying to take that extra little speed, finding the limit, but it doesn't forgive at all, like we saw with Taylor, Barnard, and now Mitch Evans. But yeah, it's cool to see that it's challenging, the track is challenging the drivers. Obviously, all good because everyone is safe now, but yeah, that is the tricky part of Formula E. You find the limits by the walls.
Well, Joseph Rocker and the team will be debriefing, I'm sure, after this session, but they're going to have a bit of rebuilding work to do ahead of the E-Prix this afternoon, because no doubt he's going to have damage to drive shafts and obviously a lot of cosmetic damage to repair as well. But it's under the skin that you've got to think about.
In the build-up to the show, we saw the impact from yesterday that damaged Mitch Evans' gearbox, and that could very well have sent a shockwave through the gearbox. Because you hit that rear right corner, it pushes in, and that puts the impact directly into the gearbox. So he could have damaged another one, which would be a terrible shame for him.
Yeah.
It's impressive how the wheel came off so quickly and suddenly. Like, he must have damaged really the whole rim because of such a dry impact.
Well, the fans watching on now waiting for the session to resume. So let's take stock of where we are at the moment. 3 minutes to go in Group A qualifying. De Grassi, Nato, Roland, Evans. Currently the 4 drivers that are through. Evans' lap time will be cancelled, so there's a place up for grabs there. You've got De Vries, Barnard, Verne, Maloney, Buemi, Van Dorn, as well as Nick Cassidy, all of whom need to make some improvements in the final 3 minutes of this session.
And the man of the session has to be Lucas De Grassi at the moment. I mean, to be sat there in P1, and he's got all the time to go back, recompose himself, get his tyres back in the window and try and do it all over again.
Well, this is the risk that we always talk about in the group stages of qualifying. You leave it late to get your lap time in and you get a red flag such as what we've had now, and you've got a lot of big hitters who are very much at risk of not making it through.
Well, you've got 2 race winners from the last 2 events down there at the bottom of the timesheets.
So it's confirmation that Evans' lap time has now been deleted. You can see that's updated with the graphics. So De Vries currently the driver that is through. One question I have, given we've seen drivers needing 2, sometimes 3 build laps, are they going to have enough time to get the heat into the tyres to be able to improve?
Yes, because obviously they've been out already, so there is temperature in the tyre, and I believe they can do an out prep push or an out push. It will depend a bit on the traffic and what they feel about it.
There's probably room for double push, mate, if we have a quick out clap.
There you go.
So let's try this.
Okay.
Bit of confidence on the first lap and then push to the second lap. The problem is with the second push, you get too much temperature in the tyre in the last sector.
But if you make a mistake on that first one, you've got another shot. And I think that's what they're going for, because you're probably going to see some track evolution. We saw in the practice lap times in this power dipping into the 13. So I still think there's room for improvement. I think that we're going to see a bit of a shake-up of the order.
Evans making his way back into pit lane. Then Gary Ekbold there on the left-hand side of your picture. Saunders just having a quick chat with him to try and find out exactly what's happening at the moment. The good thing is Evans is all okay following that crash, but yeah, he'll be lining up right towards the back of the field. Maybe not last, because we've heard that Robin Fright has got a penalty for an MGU replacement. Slide went on for a very long time and enter stage right. There's the tyre, but also keep an eye out for the Marshall as well. He was so lucky.
And it's such a big impact. You can see it brakes too late. The car bounces over that bump that we've seen a couple of people lose it on. And then he's just a passenger as he oversteers straight into the wall. And you could see there on the inside of the wheel, it's completely broken the rear wing. The hub of that wheel is shattered off.
The wheel nut's probably still on there.
Yeah. Yeah, just with the angle of the impact, it's just sheared that off. And we're very lucky that that there's been no injuries there.
Yeah, grateful for the Tech-Pro barrier at the runoff area after that one. So it was a very heavy impact into the wall. There's no barrier on the outside there, just a concrete wall for the drivers to come to blows with. And we've seen more than one have an impact there. Have a look at this then. So the wheel comes off. And it's broken the wheel there, hasn't it? Because the hub's still there, isn't it?
Yeah, there's part of that wheel still attached.
So the session about to restart then. 5 seconds to go. And ready for the thoughts of Jaguar as they debrief and analyse how it all went so wrong for them. 3 minutes to go, and this is going to be a flurry of activity onto the circuit. Track position is going to be absolutely critical. 3 minutes remain of this one. According to what we heard on the team radio, they reckon there's enough time for 2 push laps here, but track position is going to be very, very important. You want to make sure that you've got enough time and enough space to be able to set that lap.
Yeah, no dilly-dallying around the last sector now. We're going to see them all push on this out lap, make sure the tyre's in the correct window, and then they're going to try and nail these 2 laps.
Also depends where you start in the pit lane and everything gets bunched up. So maybe the first half of the drivers will be able to do a double push and maybe the others only one.
So then drivers now out onto track as we look at an overhead shot here of the Tokyo circuit. 2.575 kilometres long, this one. You can see the tight and twisty first sector, then it really begins to open up. Turn 9, one of the fastest and most frightening corners on the lap. Drivers were battling some very serious snaps of oversteer, even in the dry here on Friday. Let's see how this one is going to work out. So De Grassi, interestingly, has not come out of the pit lane, and likewise Nick De Vries as well. De Vries has now come out, so he's only going to get time for one flying lap in this session. Likewise De Grassi, who's just exited pit road.
Yeah, I think everybody is out, yeah. So maximum on front tires, mate. I think your fronts are already in a good window. Don't weave too much for race.
Great insight there as to how they're preparing their tyres. Now, Lucas De Grassi leaving later, he's confident he can go out and do a single push, and he wants to have no traffic and no risk of anyone getting in his way.
Just saw Sun Kang inside the Maserati pit box. Some are going to be fast and some will be furious at the end of this session. Let's see how it's going to work now, though, with a minute left. As we look at Evans' teammate Nick Cassidy making his way through the streets of Tokyo, out of that first sector, over the crest of the hill, in towards turn 9. See drivers, as I say, fighting the car. And Cassidy, their personal best in the first sector, down into turns 10 and 11. Not leaving much on the table, is he?
It doesn't look comfortable, though, under braking and turning. That Jaguar car, it looks very difficult. The exact sort of way Mitch lost it. You can see Nick is hustling the car to try and get it into the corners.
Through to turn 15, accelerating out. This is up towards turn 16, where his teammate managed to biff it into the wall a handful of minutes ago. Let's see what it looks like for Cassidy. He's, again, carrying the car through there. He's personal best, but I don't think it's going to be fastest of the lot by the end of this session. Out of the final corner, big snap over series. He's right up against the wall. Cassidy does go to the top of the pile, but only by half a tenth from Lucas De Grassi. And there's a plethora of personal best and indeed fastest sector times coming through now as the checkered flag is about to fall here.
Yeah, several lap times going to improve. Norman Nato's going to the top of the board as well, so he's found the deltas. Nato, Roland Verne, Buemi goes through. Maloney now slots himself into 5th position as well, so there's a lot to do. Even Sean, good morning Sean, come on, you're up early, going there as well, continuing. He's got good grip. Over the line then we come. Zane Maloney, as I say, he goes up into 5th, takes that checkered flag out. Van Dorn is improving. So is De Grassi. He's P6 at the moment. De Grassi to the top. De Grassi has stunning pace in the Lola. He goes fastest overall with a stunner with a 1:13.781. So De Grassi's going to go through to the Jules by 9,000th of a second as things stand. Nato losing out some time. Lola happy with that one though. Massive applause and celebrations all around. The flag falls. Cassidy. Cassidy stays in place. Into the pits has come Verne. So, yeah, not a great session for where the Jaguars have run. Great session, though, for everybody else. So it's De Grassi, Nato, Roland Verne going through. Out goes Barnard, De Vries, Cassidy, Maloney, Buemi, Van Dorn, and Evans, of course, not classified on his run in the session. Not bad, then, on the overalls.
Really great lap time he's put in there.
Yep, fantastic job from Lucas De Grassi, really able to extract the maximum of that one. So it is De Grassi, Nato, Roland and John-Eric Verne, the 4 drivers that will go through into the quarter final duels from Group A.
P1. Good job, Lucas.
So Lucas De Grassi, P1.
TNT Sport.
Lucas De Grassi then in the Lola Yamaha app team that's powered. And Group B will be on the way next. Good for both Nissans as well. Both out in the same group. Sometimes it can cause a little bit of an upset because it can be that little bit tricky. You can see the Lola Yamaha apt fans that are in the garage, sorry, in the grandstands, I should say, rather, absolutely delighted with that one as De Grassi makes his way into the garage. Great lap time from the Brazilian driver. So let's get confirmation of the results at the end of Group A and work out exactly what happened then. So Lucas De Grassi, top of the class by 9,000ths of a second from Norman Nato and Oliver Roland, the 2 Nissans through and into the quarters. Verne also makes the cut. Barnard misses out by just a few thousandths of a second. Likewise, Nick De Vries as well. He'll be disappointed with that one. Cassidy, Maloney, Buemi, Van Dorn and Evans all not making the cut either. So then, only a few moments to go until we get Group B underway. Obviously, we've just had one session, so at least the drivers that are out in this next session have got a reference point.
Yeah, that's where we used to live, right? A bit below Tokyo Tower and between that other big tower.
How long were you here? 15 years or something, right?
Yeah, the first 3 years I actually lived by Mount Fuji because all the race teams are based there. That was not that much fun, but it was quite nice still in the countryside. And then I changed teams and I moved to central Tokyo, and that was it was quite cool. I grew up in Belgium countryside, and then threw me in this big city was Disneyland for adults.
I can imagine yourself and James have got some stories probably not fit for broadcast unless we want to get on first name terms with Ofcom. So we'll probably leave that one there, shall we? But Oliver Rowland does go through and into the duels then. So the championship leader into the quarter final. Tara, Dennis in there as well. There's a few big names in this one.
I'm enjoying this inter-team battle between Porsche. They're trying to establish themselves for who's going to be able to come and try and fight back against Oliver Rowland. Da Costa got some points yesterday. Verline was almost no story yesterday, but he was P1 this morning in practice, so it's going to be interesting to see how that one unfolds.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There is Van Dorn in the garage, out of qualifying. So over to Group B then here in Tokyo. 11 drivers about to go out. 4 will progress forwards. The drivers are Antonio Felix da Costa, Pascal Wehrlein, so the 2 Tag Heuer Porsches in this one. Edo Mortara, Jake Dennis, Max Günther, Dan Ticktum, who was very fast here. Yesterday, and also here this morning as well. Hughes, Muller, Bird, Freitz, and David Beckman. Just a point to mention, Robin Freitz has got a 20-place grid penalty for this race, as he has had to replace the MGU on the car. So the motor generator unit had to be replaced, and that means that he will be starting 20 places lower than wherever he qualifies. So if he doesn't have a particularly good session, he'll be in Yokohama, I presume.
Yeah, that's a rather difficult one for him. I mean, he can still learn by going out on the track for the race a little bit, find his car balance, and also make sure he's got his eye in for the attack modes, should he make it through to the dual phases.
And speaking of getting your eye in as well, this is Group B. Obviously, we've just had Group A out on track. How much do you reckon these drivers and teams are going to have been able to learn? I'm thinking specifically about the likes of McLaren, of Envision, and so on, who've just had a car out in a session previous.
Yeah, it's definitely a big advantage. I mean, you can already, even if you have both cars in the same group, learn from the Group A, but it is an advantage if you have your teammate being in Group A, and especially with the new tires. But for sure they will look at what Lucas Di Grassi has been doing, because I think that was the key to his performance, to extract the peak of the tire, and even also when you went back out after the red flag to get the confidence to only do 1 push, because he probably felt there's just one lap in the tires. If you do the double push, the last sector you will struggle with the rear tires, and yeah, it's now everyone I think will focus to put the performance on that one top lap.
Yeah, I completely agree, Andre. I think you're going to see a push lap coming much sooner from this group, because as you said, Lucas could just do 1 build and nail the lap, and clearly it made all the difference to him.
Yeah, great lap time for Lucas Di Grassi and the lowly Yamaha app team. So here is Robin Freitz making his way through. As we said, unfortunate to have that 20-place grid penalty. Finished 9th, or was classified 9th, I should say, at the checkered flag yesterday. There was a post-race penalty for Nick de Vries following his contact with Mitch Evans in the race. Just hoping we're going to be able to have a listen in there to Lucas's conversation, but he walks away from the camera very quickly.
It sounded like he's had a little kiss of the wall with the left-hand side, and he's about to show our founder, Humberto, the evidence.
We're always a bit proud when you get off, you know, you push the limit, but you still you kiss the wall. It's a bit of a satisfaction when you get away with it.
Yeah, there is Alberto Longo, as you can see, co-founder and chief championship officer of Formula E. So the 2 Tag Heuer Porsches out in this session. Contrasting fortunes for both Di Grassi and for Antonio Felix da Costa. In terms of the race result yesterday, da Costa finishing inside the points in 7th. Pascal Wehrlein, though, he was pretty anonymous in terms of the final results. We didn't really talk about him much in the race. Eventually, he was outside of the points, came over the line 13th.
He struggled for pace in the wet. It was clear he was not comfortable in the car. However, the dry is a different story, and he's been absolutely flying today.
Yeah, very strong qualifier. Pascal has been many times in the duels. He really likes qualifying, and he's very strong at putting a lap together.
Yeah, 2 pole positions so far in 2025 for Pascal Wehrlein. Will this be a third to add to the tally? We'll find out in about 8.5 minutes' time if he's going to progress forwards into the dual stages.
Do you know that the Fast and Furious movie is called different in Japan?
Is it really?
Wild Speed.
Okay.
Wildo Speed.
What? It's a good Japanese knowledge that you've got there. That's 15 years has served you well on there. I like it. So, Jake Hughes out in this session. Jake looking a little bit more like the Jake Hughes of old, actually. He's had a tough couple of weekends in Formula E. Monaco was an absolute disaster. No points on the board and struggled with pace throughout. This morning, though, looking a little bit more confident with the car.
Well, yesterday he was also nowhere, and this morning, after we mentioned him in the beginning of practice as someone who was struggling, he just proved us completely wrong and jumped up to the top 3.
So what's that down to then? Why, from one day to the next, can you have completely contrasting fortunes here?
That's a very good question. I don't know what else he was struggling with other than the braking issues he kept mentioning over and over and over again. He had no confidence on the brakes, he couldn't stop the car, he didn't have confidence to carry the speed into the corners, and then suddenly this morning, well, he put it all together.
So the 2 Andretti's also out in this session, Nico Müller and Jake Dennis. They will be looking for a turnaround in fortunes. Yesterday was an absolute shocker for both of them. Jake Dennis disqualified from the race.
So on the plan, we will do 3 push laps with big cools in between, plenty of margin.
So 3 laps the plan there for Robin Freint in this session. Team radio there with his engineer Ben Scott.
So he's on a push lap now, then he's going to do cool lap, push lap, cool lap, push lap. So this is his first attempt at a push. A little bit wide there in turn 4. Looks like he's struggling with his front tyres.
Yeah, trying to get those up to temperature, maybe not in the right operating window at the moment, but it's only a first push lap here for Robin Freint, so he's got an opportunity, providing there are no yellow or indeed red flags in this session, to improve that as it continues on. Just finishing my earlier point on Andretti, as I said, Dennis disqualified, disaster for him. Well, Nico Müller on the other side of the garage started in the back row, only finished a lowly 12th at the end of that one, so they will be really hoping for a turnaround in fortunes, because it hasn't been a particularly brilliant season for them. The only highlight really being so far Dennis's podium in Monte Carlo last time out.
No, but starting at the back yesterday, there was really no chance. They had to roll the dice and try something. As we mentioned before, it was the wrong thing to do. However, they have a chance to do it all over again today, and hopefully Jake can show that speed that got him onto the podium in Monaco.
So Freint's about to complete his first flying lap in the session. It's not been a perfect one by any stretch of the imagination. It's a 1:14.4, so we'll be expecting that to improve as the session goes on. Jake Hughes ready to begin to build himself up for his first flying lap here in the Maserati.
I think Robin, he just didn't have the front tyres in the window. You could hear in that first sector the front tyres chirping as they were searching for the grip as he went to corner. We saw him missing the apex at turn 4, and when you miss the apex in a long corner like that, you travel more distance, and by travelling more distance, you lose lap time.
So looking here at Antonio Felix da Costa coming out of that final turn, and he comes across the line, goes to the top of the pile by a couple of tenths of a second. What about his teammate Pascal Wehrlein, quickest in FP3 this morning, and he is the first driver into the 1:13. So Porsche Powertrain seems to be working quite nicely here in the dry, and that is further backed up by Jake Dennis, also sliding himself into second place. James, we were talking about Dan Ticktum earlier on. You reckon he's a hot tip for pole position if he can get through from the group stages?
Yeah, he had a great performance yesterday in the wet. He was fast in the dry in Monaco, fast in the wet in Monaco. He just looks like a man who's building his confidence, and he's starting to put everything together. Now, whether or not he can do that, we saw him in the practice session setting some purple sectors. He definitely has a chance. He's got the Porsche powertrain, so he can probably put it into in the duels. I'm quite confident he's got the capability to do that. And yeah, let's see.
Here's Max Günther, retired from the race yesterday. Big step of oversteer into the penultimate corner there. That's not the way you want to be negotiating that final chicane. Mortara's gone quickest, by the way, with a 1:13.8. Just seeing that Beckman's under investigation for impeding, according to our timing screen at the moment as well. So presumably he's gotten in the way of somebody on a flyer.
Yeah, that's not ideal. And as we were mentioning in the beginning, it's very difficult here with the traffic, but if you're driving too slow and you get in someone's way, it's not nice for the other person.
What about Sam Bird then in the Neon McLaren? We know that there's pace in that car. We've seen it over the course of this season, courtesy of Taylor Barnard. Bird does improve and goes up to 4th quickest. That's a bit more like it. 4 minutes left of this session. No point getting too excited about it at the moment, because I imagine we're going to see a flurry of lap times and improvement as it continues on. Tictum now also makes an improvement, and he goes up into 4th as well. Beckman, as we heard, under investigation for impeding, and he further backs up. The Cupra Kiro's got a good amount of pace behind it because he's only 100th of a second behind his teammate here.
So now this is the first indication of the performance from all the drivers. They all had a go, and let's see now how they will be able to cool their tires off for maybe 2 cool laps and then have another shot again. Compared to the Group A, which they went into the garage with a red flag and cool off the tires more and go again.
Yeah, you can see Robin here with his strategy. He doesn't have so long to cool the tyres, and he's really fighting the car in this last sector. He's struggling in turn 15, struggling in 16, missed the apex in turn 17, so his tyres are probably overheated. He's going to need a really big cool-down lap now to try and get his tyres in the window, as Pascal Wehrlein is setting purple sector after purple sector. Yeah, he's absolutely flying here, is Pascal Wehrlein. This is his teammate, Antonio Felix da Costa, as he comes through on a personal best lap time. You can see the car dancing all over the road for da Costa. He's currently down in 8th fastest, so this needs to be an improvement. Will it be enough to progress him forward into the duels at this stage? It is. He goes into 3rd, but we're expecting lap times to continue to tumble as Wehrlein goes to the top by nearly 1/10.5 of a second.
Very strong lap from Wehrlein. We saw this morning that he was quick also with a 350 kilowatt tires, so he's a strong contender for pole position, I believe.
Track feels like it's evolving quite rapidly here, as well as the tyres getting into the right window. Do you think there's a case for the last driver to cross the line that could be quickest?
Definitely. I mean, with yesterday being wet, the track is very green, which means it's clean. Now the rubber is going into it. We've seen a lot of cars out in Group A. Now they're in Group B. They're cleaning the circuit. You're going to get faster and faster and faster. And I think that we are going to see the last one to cross the line getting through.
Half a second separating 11 drivers. Very tight margins here in Formula E. You can see there as well, 0.3 of a second between 1st and 4th. Just under 1/10 between 2 drivers. Sorry, yeah, under 1/10 of a second between Tictum and Beckman right behind.
But Mortara's looking on really strong form. He started on the front row yesterday. He didn't quite get the result he deserved. He deserved to be on the podium.
Timing is no problem. Just keep working on your fronts, try to cool down your rears, keep them cool for the last lap or so also.
Tyre temp absolutely critical here in the group stages of qualifying. You want to make sure they're not too hot, not too cold. You need Goldilocks tyres. They need to be just right. So the drivers got to make sure that everything is good to go for this, their final run in the session. They're all sort of beginning to build themselves up now with 1.5 minutes to go. As we look at Sylvain Filippi watching on. Here is Max Günther, unlucky to retire from the race with a technical problem here yesterday, and he's attacking this lap with a bit of vigour.
Yeah, this is his last attempt, really, otherwise he's going to overheat the tyres, so nice to ride on board with him. Stays nice and tight there in turn 4. A little bit of understeer in the middle of the corner. It looks quite good from Max.
Yeah, not too bad at all for him as he comes out in towards turn 8. This is where the track now begins to open up. We come over the crest of the hill into turn 9. It's fast and frightening, this one, especially in 2-wheel drive and 350 kilowatts. You can see him constantly adjusting the angle of steering going through there. In towards turns 10 and 11. This is where the lap time can go away from you, but it's okay for Max Günther. Gets the car in there quite nicely. What about Jake Hughes as well in the Maserati? He's coming through the final sector now. It's been a personal best in sector 1, personal best in sector 2. What kind of improvement can he do? He comes over the line, drops a bit of time in that final sector. He's got one more opportunity with just under 30 seconds remaining in this session now.
I'm not sure Max cooled his tyres down enough before this lap. It looks like he's just struggling for peak grip a little bit.
Yeah, he'll get one more flyer then at the end of this one, but is there enough life left in the tyres? I think it's going to be an improvement. It is just into 4th place, but let's see what everybody else can do in the last dying seconds of this session. Wehrlein comes across the timing line with 4 seconds remaining to set his flying lap in this session. What about Antonio Felix da Costa? He's not going to get another run at it, so he'll be 3rd quickest. There's a double yellow at turn 12, though, that's just come out, and it's Nico Müller we can see on our driver tracker here in the commentary box that's brought up the yellow flag, so that's going to completely thwart any improvements because Müller is in the barrier down at turn 12. Bird has just improved up to 4th quickest. Checkered flag is now out, so any drivers that are in the final sector should be okay for an improvement, including Dan Tictum, who goes up into 3rd quickest in the Cupra Kiro. Knocks out Sam Bird.
Very impressive lap. Purple 1st sector as well from Dan. He's really flying this weekend. His confidence is building and building.
What about David Beckman then out of the final turn? 8th fastest for the German driver as he comes to the timing line. Does he improve? No, he doesn't. And it looks like it could be another disappointment for Andretti. Dennis and Müller both out. Freitz has also aborted. not really a surprise there. Knew he's not going to make it through into the duels, and of course he has that 20-place grid penalty as well.
So both Porsches make it through. That's super important for them.
Mortara as well. Great lap time for him.
Yeah, and Dan Ticktum. We're going to have some entertaining duels ahead of us.
We are. So what happened?
Yeah, but how critical? How critical? Look, Da Costa 113.812, Bird 113.812. They've said exactly the same time in that duel, but Da Costa gets it because he got there first.
For impeding, we mentioned it earlier on in the session. We'll wait to see exactly how severe that penalty is, and well, how severe the impeding was as well. So let's see what happened here then to Nico Müller. So we're coming through turns 10 and 11. This is a super slow-mo. He clatters over the curb. Is he going to hit the wall on the outside?
Yes, he is. Well predicted, Tom.
I've got the lottery numbers for next Thursday if you want them as well.
Thank you. I'll take those later.
Yeah.
Too much curb on the first apex, and the car bounced back, and not enough time for the car to recover. And yeah, it's another example that Formula E is unforgivable.
Yeah, and the thing that's tough is like in those corners.
I had a crash, man. Hell!
I'm not sure who's blaming there for that one, but it's so difficult because in those corners you don't actually gain that much lap time because you think you're going to go through it 2 or 3 kilometers an hour faster. You'll gain more lap time in other areas with less risk.
Well, you have to push everywhere, so it's tricky, you know. Like it's pushing the limits. It's part of the game.
Disappointment for Sam Bird to not go through into the duels. Likewise, Jake Dennis as well. So then, Müller in the barrier, and time for the duels to get underway in a few moments. The Porsche powertrain's working quite nicely here.
Yeah, very nicely indeed, and great for Antonio Felix da Costa to just scrape through there in 4th place. Super important for him, given his title challenge. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because I believe that he will end up head-to-head with Pascal Wehrlein.
I'm excited for that.
I am as well. Very excited.
Well, the Japanese fans watching on here in the grandstands, so let's get confirmation of the results from Group B. Wehrlein, Mortara, Ticktum and da Costa are the 4 drivers that will go through into the quarterfinals. We miss Sam Bird. You can see there exactly the same lap time to Antonio Felix da Costa. He just happened to set it a little bit after the Portuguese driver, so that means that he is out. Likewise, Günther, Dennis as well, Beckman, Hughes, Nico Müller in the barrier at the end of that one, and Robin Freins, a 20-place penalty for changing the MGU. Means that he will be right plumb last on the grid. So then, over to the quarterfinals in a few moments' time, and the lineup is going to be pretty exciting, I reckon. You've got Oliver Rowland versus Norman Nato, so a Nissan showdown there. We've got Jean-Eric Vergne versus Lucas Di Grassi, Dan Ticktum versus Edo Mortara, Antonio Felix da Costa versus Pascal Wehrlein. So the 2 factory Nissan and Porsche teammates that will be going head-to-head against one another. Only one, of course, can progress forwards from the quarters and into the semis, and I'm very excited to see how this is all going to work out as we look at a bird's eye view of Tokyo. What a fantastic city this is. One of the most populous cities in the world, 14 million people living here. If you expand that a bit further out, it goes up to 40.8 in the wider metropolitan area. Here are the highlights then from the group stages of qualifying. Drama in both sessions for this, because in Group A we saw Mitch Evans ending his session in the barrier, bringing out the red flag with 3 minutes to go. His lap time was deleted, as you can imagine, and this is the incident which ripped the right rear wheel off of it and sent it spiralling into the Tech Pro barrier. The upshot is he'll be right towards the back of the field, joined by Robin Freins. Lucas Di Grassi pulled an absolute blinder out of the bag, meaning that he was fastest in the group stages. Group B as well, very, very... Group stages of qualifying then here in Tokyo. Keen to see what is going to happen in the duel coming up in a few moments' time. Of course, we go from 300 to 350 kilowatts of power, and we also go into all-wheel drive as well. It is going to be very exciting to see what happens there here in the heat and humidity of Tokyo as we bask in the sunshine ahead of the dual stages for round 9.
Well, as expected, that was a busy group stage in the qualifying sessions there. Let's reflect on what just happened to Nico Müller. Pushing hard, turn 10, turn 11, just caught him out there.
Yeah, he took too much curb on the apex, and then obviously that threw him offline. He didn't have the front end to be able to turn in and clip the barrier on the outside of the next corner, obviously putting him in the wall, which is a big disappointment also for Jake Dennis, his teammate. They both missed out on the duels this time, so I think after yesterday, that's a big blow for the team. Yeah, a lot of work for the Andretti team ahead of the race. But then, as according to your prediction, Pascal Wehrlein is looking fast. So that pace that we saw from him in FP2 has continued, FP3 has continued into the dual stages. Well, also what's interesting is that those laps were in 300 kilowatts with rear-wheel drive. The fast pace that he set this morning was obviously with 350, which is what we're about to see in the duels. So we can expect a fast pace from him again in the duels this afternoon, so that's very exciting. And also, we've got to talk about Dan Ticktum quickly, because the fact that yesterday he had his second equaling best performance, finishing in P5, and he's back in the duels again. It just feels like they're going from strength to strength at the moment. Yeah, he's got the pace in every surface. We've seen a lot of drifting from him this morning as well. So I think he's definitely knocking on the doors of a podium soon. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what he does with the 350 kilowatts now. Well, let's have a look at that Nico Müller moment that just happened a few moments ago, and you can talk us through some of the action, Katie. Yeah, I mean, it all happened so quickly, as you can see there. He just clips the curb on the inside with the right-hand side, and then he just doesn't have the turn in to be able to make the next corner. Yeah, it's just fine margins there. You want a little bit of curb because that's obviously the apex, but if you miss it, there's a very tight section through that chicane, and it caught him out that time. And then if we look at the results from Group A, I mean, Lucas de Grassi, quickest of Group A. That's the second time he's got through to the duels. I think he's only scored points once so far this season, which was a podium, to be fair, in Miami with a second-place finish. But again, a great result for him and the team. Yeah, I mean, look at the celebrations here from the team. They're obviously ecstatic with that. Yeah, they've been developing strength to strength, and here we are. He's gonna, whatever happens now, he's gonna be lining up in a very strong position for the race later on today. Now, what I'm really excited about to see is because in Group A, we had Norman Nato and Oliver Rowland both getting through, which means the first quarter-final are the two Nissan drivers going against each other. Not ideal. Incredible. It's going to be tense in the garage. It's interesting, though, because Oliver didn't do any 350 kilowatt laps this morning. He was so focused in getting into the duels that he only practiced with 300, whereas Norman, I think he was second quickest this morning with 350 kilowatts. So he's got that feeling under his belt. Oliver's just going to go in cold, but we all know what Oliver can do as well. So that's going to be one to watch. An exciting session for Nissan. Not so exciting for the Jaguar team. Nick Cassidy didn't get through. And then, of course, Mitch Evans had that huge moment down at turn 16 where his tyre flew through the air. Let's go to James now and talk through the action at the E-pad.
Thanks, Nikki. I'm here at the pad where I can have a little breakdown of that incident. And unfortunately, Mitch Evans' miserable weekend continues. As he's entering turn 16, he brakes very late. There's a little bump, and he loses the rear of the car very early. Massive impact with the wall. These walls do not move 1 millimetre. One of the huge challenges of racing informally on these tight, twisty street tracks. Now, it sheared the rear wheel off the car. And this, I mean, we were very lucky not to have a bigger incident, but you can see here, Mitch is very, very wide, and it's super dusty there because of the rain. No one's been driving out there. It's very dusty and dirty. On the onboard, you can see at this moment, he probably knows he's braked a little bit too late. And just about here, he's really lost the car. He does everything in his power to recover it, but just too much speed into turn 16, a very large impact with the wall. And we're all really grateful that the marshals and nobody was hit by the wheel or by Mitch's car. So super lucky nobody was injured, but unfortunately Jaguar and Mitch's miserable weekend continues. Back to you.
Thank you, James. Yeah, absolutely. Very fortunate that that tyre stayed on track away from the marshals. Now, we have sent Saunders off to try and have a chat with Mitch Evans to see how he's feeling after that big moment.
Mitch Evans, I wanted to give you a few moments because I imagine after impacts like that, it might take it out of you a little bit. First of all well, you okay?
No, I'm all good. Just disappointed. No, but physically all okay.
Talk us through the moment. What happened?
It all happened pretty quick. Yeah, I feel like I maybe attacked the entry just a little bit more than the previous lap. Halfway through the corner, I thought it's going to be okay, but then I started to lose the rear. I don't know if I was a little bit. I didn't look at the replay, but I thought I was online, but maybe I had, I don't know, right rear or something slightly into the dirt. because once it went, it didn't recover. So yeah, just feel really bad for the team. It's been a really tough. I mean, it's been a tough season. So you hope every opportunity you can start to, get some momentum back. But yeah, this is not the best time for that. And yeah, obviously the guys are gonna have a bit of work to do now, and obviously starting from the back. So just moments like that, just the compound effect is pretty disappointing. So yeah, I'm gutted.
Any word on the damage so far?
Hard to say. And I think the right rear tire rim took most of the impacts. So just hoping the main case is fine. I guess wishbones will be damaged, and obviously a bit of cosmetic damage to the front wing, or quite a bit. I think it's completely destroyed. But apart from that, hard to say. But hopefully, like front powertrain and wishbones and stuff, just for the mechanics to be able to focus on the rear end. But hopefully, it's not too bad.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Saunders. Good to hear from Mitch Evans there. I mean, he mentions the compound effect. When you're on that downward trajectory in motorsport, sometimes it really is difficult to get back up again. I mean, Mitch Evans, he's one of the best Formula E drivers. The last couple of years, he's finished second in the standings, but he just can't catch a break at the moment, Andre. What is it? What's going wrong? Is it the team? Is it the car? Is it him? What's happening?
Yeah, it's hard to explain these things sometimes. I've been in this situation before, and you try to do everything right. You focus, you train, you work well with your team. Nothing really different than what you've done in the past, but sometimes there's a rhythm that's not there. And the same way it's working so well for Roland, it's working not so well for other drivers. So yeah, you need to build it back up, get some good results, get the momentum back in. But yeah, moments like these are definitely difficult to take.
Okay, well, now Saunders is with Taylor Barnard, missing out there on the duels, but let's hear from him.
Taylor Barnard, fine margins as always in Formula E. It looks like very tricky to get a good lap together out there.
I mean, to be honest, I think I put my lap together pretty well. I don't know where I'm missing the pace, because from my side that was put together and I felt like what was a pretty decent lap. So honestly, when it feels good, it's even more frustrating to miss out, but look, we'll do our homework. And the race yesterday was complete chaos. Of course, the conditions are a little bit better today, but we're aiming for points still.
That's what we like to hear. Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you.
Well, Taylor Barnard there, obviously, not worried about his race today. There is so much to be done, from that sort of middle pack in the grid. Actually, let's just take a look at his lap, Andre.
Yeah, super cool lap. Very close to being in the duels, but yeah, good strong performance. Missed the apex a little bit there for the chicane. Better than Nico Müller though, which took it a bit too much and then crashed. But yeah, really talented driver here in Formula E, and I think we will see a lot more great performances from him.
Excellent stuff. Well, we have whittled the 22 drivers down to the fastest 8, which means it is time for the head-to-head duels of qualifying. Let's go to our commentary team of Tom Brooks and James Rossiter.
Thank you very much indeed there, Nikki. Looking forward to the dual stages of qualifying then. Oliver Rowland versus Norman Nato up first here in the quarterfinals. The fans very excited for this one. So we move from 300 to 350 kilowatts of power. We've got all-wheel drive as well. This is going to be an absolute cracker. But only one of the Nissan teammates is going to progress forwards here, James.
Yeah, and in the practice this morning, Oliver Rowland didn't do any 350 kilowatt laps, so this could be advantage Norman Nato.
Certainly could do. Let's have a look at who is going to be lining up alongside one another for the quarterfinal duels then. So as we see, Oliver Rowland and Norman Nato up first. Then it's Jean-Eric Verne for DS Penske versus Lucas de Grassi for Lola Yamaha Abt. Dan Ticktum versus Edo Mortara up next after that. And then the two Tag Heuer Porsche teammates of Antonio Felix da Costa and Pascal Wehrlein. How is this one going to work out? Well, your guess is as good as ours, because this is our first qualifying session here so far this weekend. Because, of course, qualifying was cancelled yesterday. Quarterfinal 1 then, Oliver Rowland versus Norman Nato. This is going to be an exciting one. The Formula E predictor, you guys at home, reckon that it's going to go the way of Oliver Rowland, 93 to 7%. That's pretty convincing.
It's a fairly large swing in one direction. However, I do think Norman Nato has a great chance here, given the fact that he was quite quick in the dry conditions this morning and on Friday.
Well, we're at the halfway stage now of the season, James, as the drivers are about to head out onto the track as the pit lane opens. Do you think there could be a possibility they'd employ some team orders, or is it too early?
No, it's too. I mean, it's too early for team orders, and also the fact that Oliver Rowland has such a huge lead in the championship. He doesn't need any team orders to help him.
Yeah, very good point. I suppose the team just want to maximise whatever opportunity they can get here in Tokyo. Home weekend for them, and if they can get one of their cars onto pole position for a second race in succession, they would be absolutely delighted with that one as Nato emerges onto the circuit.
Yeah, they'll want the extra 3 points for pole position, but what they'll also want is they want the fastest time of all the drivers that will unfortunately get eliminated in this quarter-final phase, because if you are the fastest loser in the quarter-finals, you will be starting in 5th position.
So through that right-hander of turn 9. Now, we saw a lot of drivers doing big build laps, and quite a lot of build laps, trying to get heat into the surface of the tyre. Obviously, in the duels, they've only got one opportunity to do that now.
Yeah, you have to go out and be very aggressive on your outlap, really put the energy into the tyres, try and build up that temperature as quickly as possible into the core of the tyre, what we call the carcass, and then that will enable you to get the maximum grip for your full lap.
So
here we go then, starting off the first quarter-final session. And let's see what is what then in this run. Green flag, we're underway, and the first one to take it down towards the first corner will be Oliver Rowland. Nato is just behind him. Dry track will help a lot with performance compared to what we saw previously. Down into 3, really hugging the inside line to 4. Hear the tyres screeching away. First sector time for Rowland, 29.755. His teammate Norman Nato just behind. It's a Nissan duo here in Japan, battling it out. It's a perfect situation really for both of them. Maximum exposure in their home city. Really hugging the inside line. Oh, and Nato's faster. 29.745, 23 thousandths of a second between the two at the moment. So here we go from Rowland. Sliding out of turn 17 into the last corner. A 112.375. Nato just behind. What will his delta be? Is he faster or not? Nato's hit the wall. Nato's hit the wall. He will not complete the time. Nato has hit the rear suspension and it is crabbing. So Norman Nato will not set a lap time. Tintin and Mortara next out. But out goes Nato. Rowland progresses through. That's a surprise.
Other than aborting it, because you never know what might happen. Somebody else might have an instant in their duels, and it could give him track position.
Exactly that. So if someone else in a duel crashes into the wall and they can't finish their lap, Nato will start ahead of them. So smart thinking for the long game to make sure that they actually get a lap time on the board, even if it's a slow one. Hopefully no damage will be done to the powertrain, though.
And the tyre as well, because you want to keep that one fresh for the race.
So let's have a look at Oliver Rowland in the super slow-mo through turns 10 and 11. A bit greedy with the curve there on the inside. We saw Nico Müller doing that in the group stages of the qualifying. Norman Nato, meanwhile, also getting right over on that one. Is this where it went wrong for him? Did he clip the wall on the outside of turn 11? I think he might have done, you know. Let's have a look. So he's coming into here. Big curve on the right-hand side. Centre car wide. Yeah, straight to the scene of the accident, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a fairly big impact.
Yeah, exactly the same way Nico Müller had it in pre-practice, or in the quali group, sorry. Bit too much inside curve and the car just bounces and won't recover.
So over to quarter-final 2, Jean-Eric Verne versus Lucas de Grassi. Verne has the most pole positions of any driver in Formula E history with 18. Lucas de Grassi, despite being a world champion, only 4 pole positions in his Formula E career. And let's see how this one is going to work out. DS Penske versus Lola Yamaha Apt, and they're already on their fly.
Yeah, brilliant qualifier, Jean-Eric Verne. Always one to make us very excited as he puts the car on the knife edge.
Through the right-hander of turn 9, car looking okay, nice and compliant on the outside of the wall. This is where we saw Nato a few moments ago biffing it into the barrier and costing him an opportunity of further progression in the qualifying stages. What about Lucas de Grassi? 40 years old, he could become the second oldest pole sitter in Formula E history today if he gets through to the finals. That's a fairly long way off, however.
What's even more interesting is the fact that Norman Nato is still out there on the circuit. He's just been lapped by both John O'Verne and Lucas de Grassi. So Nato is right in the way of the field. Surprised he held the cars in the pit lane until that was going through, but that red flag earlier on was already causing problems. Verne's lap time then coming through on the board, and it is a 1:12.681. De Grassi a 1:12.756. So Jean-Eric Verne will progress through by 75 thousandths of a second. Through goes Jev.
And by less than a tenth of a second, it is Jean-Eric Verne that goes forwards and into the semi-finals.
Super close one, and looked like de Grassi had a bit of a oversteer in the last sector. Jev looked a bit more composed through there, a bit more conservative maybe through turn 16, but yeah, it worked out for him.
Yeah, all of Lucas's time loss was really in sector 1, so I wonder if he'd just break that little bit early with the extra speed arriving down there.
Yeah, see over the chicane here for Jean-Eric Verne. Great lap time for him in the DS Penske. So Jay Penske with his shades on in the pit box a few moments ago. Now Verne's going to reset and go again.
Looking forward to this next challenge, Tictum against Mortara.
I can't predict that one, you know. I think that's going to be a bit of a tight one, you know.
Well, Mortara's been on great form all weekend. The Mahindra looks really fast since Monaco in the attack looks. So it's going to be tight between the two of them.
Quarterfinal 3, Dan Tictum in the Cupra Kiro versus Edo Mortara in the Mahindra. Formula E predictor of your momentum is with Edo Mortara for this one here.
James not, you're with Tictum, right?
It's going to be really tight. I wouldn't want to bet either way. I mean, we know what Dan Tictum's capable of. He's capable of pulling out some great one-laps, but we also know that Edo Mortara is looking really, really strong. He's been building a lot of pace over the last few weekends, and he was a man on the front row of the grid yesterday.
Yeah, certainly was. Team radio here.
Session in the short call.
So that was Marek Kaniszewski, race director.
I think they're trying to clear, because I saw in the last session, there was Norman Nato driving rather slowly around, and I wonder if he stopped or tried to pull off the track in a safe place, and I wonder if they're just delaying a little bit the start of that to recover the car.
Could be a bit of debris maybe on the track as well. Yeah, I think Nato has actually come to a stop down at turn 12 from what we can see on our driver tracker here in the comms box.
We watched sector 1, so I think the pace should be faster than that, but we'll see.
Copy.
Sorry for talking over the team radio there of Dan Tictum. But talking about Oliver Rowland and his lap time there in that session a few moments ago. Let's have another look at the incident for Norman Nato. This is where his chances of going through from the quarterfinals came to an abrupt end.
Where do you think it went wrong, Andre?
Yeah, he just took that tiny bit too much curb. If you compare the slow-mo to what we just saw from Jeff before, which was right on the edge, but that basically the dampers can't do the job. It's too much of a curve to.
We will reset the session at 11:21.
So we're about a minute away from that, aren't we?
So it looked to me like he had 2 stabs at turning into the corner, and he wasn't really that confident on the initial turn in. He kind of turned in again.
Spot the Formula E car here. Sorry, James.
Found a parking spot.
I can just see the camera on the roll hoop hiding out the back there.
Yeah, I think he wanted to protect his powertrain or his tire and prefer to get the car recovered and focus on the race instead of trying to limp back and put further damage to it.
Yeah, shame there for Norman Nato. Session 2 have ended, and for Tommaso Volpe, only one of his drivers was ever going to progress, and it's Oliver Rowland that goes through into the quarters. Sebisa, rather.
So yeah, be aggressive on the outlap for tires. Obviously it's the same for Mortara, so let's maximize what we can.
Green light on at the end of pit lane then. Quarterfinal 3 gets underway with Dan Tictum leading out Eduardo Mortara. Too close to call this one, and we'll see how this is going to work out. In terms of positions here in Tokyo, the advantage, you would say the momentum at least, would be with Edo Mortara. Started on the front row of the grid yesterday. Last year here he was 3rd on the grid. I know yesterday was a bit of a a bit of a difficult one because we didn't have any qualifying. But last year here, you know, third on the grid in the Mahindra, in the dual stages. So he's got good performances under his belt at this circuit. But Dan Ticktum has always been a street circuit specialist.
Yeah, this is Formula E. You never know what's going to happen.
But yeah, Mortara is famous for being quite good on street tracks, and especially the twisty ones. So he's been always super close to the walls and taking good controlled risks. So it would be a good show. And also they're both from Group B, so meaning that they have both very similar tire temperatures. That shouldn't be too much of a delta in between both cars.
Yeah, Mortara's very strong at maximising the track width on the entry of the corners. His car is so close to the wall. It's something that I noticed when I worked together with him. He has a great talent for that.
So through the final corner we go for Dan Ticktum, and he blasts out of it now to begin his one and only flying lap here in this session in the Cupra Kiro, down towards the first corner. See if he can get the car stopped and rotated. All looks good through there for now. Down the jump we go, in towards the attack mode area of turn 4, hitting the car there a bit deep. Yeah.
Looks like a lot of understeer. It's the difficult part to get the front tires right for that one push lap.
Yeah, especially with them being held in the pit lane for that long.
Eduardo Mortara, he was right up against the wall there on the outside, going through turn 3. If he didn't hit it, I'll be very surprised, but he was almost crystal paper close there as we look at Ticktum then coming down through in towards turns 10 and 11.
Yeah, Ticktum really fighting for control. He's sliding everywhere, but Mortara's 2 tenths down on his overall lap time. He's lost a lot of time, and I would now be under the assumption that this is Dan Ticktum's for the taking.
Stabs at that corner there.
He's got it.
Yeah, Ticktum has got the advantage in his pocket here, hasn't he?
He needs to finish the lap and
look at that.
Not lacking any commitment.
No, on the ragged edge of adhesion, coming through the final couple of corners. Mortara beginning to catch him, though, but Ticktum on an absolute flyer. Comes to the timing line, a 1:12.1. That is absolutely phenomenal from Dan Ticktum. Eder Mortara, unless, well, he manages to cut a corner, I don't think he's going to be able to beat that lap time set by Dan Ticktum. Through the final chicane we go.
Stunner.
Mortara, unfortunately, his challenge in qualifying will come to an end in the quarterfinals in the Mahindra, half a second away from Dan Ticktum. The Cupra Kiro is through and into the semis.
Amazing lap from him and great commitment through 16. A beautiful four-wheel drift out there, really cool to see and not easy to manage that.
He looked nice and tidy in turn 1, 2, 3. Turn 4, as you mentioned, a little bit of understeer, but he was super good in the complicated parts. And yeah, the commitment is turn 9 and 16, second to none. Brilliant lap there.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to have a little bit of understeer.
So yeah, you're progressing to the next. Well done. Yeah, very good lap.
It wasn't a perfect lap, I wonder what happened to Mortara. I'm just wondering if he might have clipped the barrier here. That's when he's starting his fly, wasn't it?
Well, we did say beforehand he likes to get very close to the wall, so proving us right.
Yeah, launching the lap is very important too, and now onto a big duel, 2 teammates, and see who will come ahead.
Quarter-final 4 then, Antonio Felix da Costa versus Pascal Wehrlein, and the momentum very much with Pascal Wehrlein for this one.
Yeah, it is, here we go.
Towards the...
Underway then already. And it's going to be... It's da Costa out first, with Wehrlein just behind him. In these sector times now, pushing hard. Loose and fast with the rules is what we like to see, and you see sort of the adaptation of it all. What's the first sector then? Da Costa, a 30.257. Wehrlein up, 29.910. So Wehrlein faster than da Costa so far in these little runs. Let's see if that's going to be an advantage midway through. Sector 2 for da Costa, 19.278. Wehrlein, 19.201. But somehow, Wehrlein is 0.4 of a second faster than da Costa. This is going to be very simple for Pascal Wehrlein. Da Costa over the line. It's a 1:12.920. Wehrlein is going to smash it out of the park. Over the line for quarterfinal number 4. And it's Wehrlein through. A 1:12.299. He will face Ticktum in semi-final number 2.
Tokyo.
Yeah, great lap from Pascal, continuing his fine form from free practice 3 this morning. But yeah, couldn't match Dan Ticktum though.
Yeah, it looked like Antonio Felix da Costa was struggling to put temperature on the front tires and understeering a lot, missing the apexes a bit, and yeah, that indicates that maybe Dan Ticktum has a way of warming up the tires efficiently.
Well, there we go then. We've got the lineup for the semi-finals. Jean-Eric Vergne and Oliver Rowland, Pascal Wehrlein versus Dan Ticktum. Bring it on. Bring it on. For Tag Heuer Porsche, as they now focus on the semi-finals here. Wehrlein here is pushing quite hard on his in-lap. He's trying to keep the tyre temperatures up ahead of the semis.
Yeah, definitely. You can see he was struggling in Sector 1. You know, we know that Antonio really struggled in Sector 1, so he's trying to keep as much temperature as possible as he goes through to the semi-finals.
So one driver that didn't make it through from the quarterfinals was Lucas de Grassi. Let's go down to Saunders and catch up with the...
So box, follow FIA instruction at pit entry, and yeah, as said, do whatever is needed for the tyre.
Beg your pardon, sorry for talking over the team radio there. Let's go down to Saunders and catch up then with Lucas de Grassi after the quarterfinals.
Lucas de Grassi, first of all, great to see you in the duels, but quarterfinals, best that was on the cards today.
The group session, it was pretty good. We finished as fastest. I think it's the first time that the Lola Yamaha finishes P1 in quali. So it's very nice to do it here in Japan and to show that the car has pace. And in some tracks we are really there, like Miami here. I feel confident with the car. And then in duels, tires were not 100% ready in the first part of the track. I lost 2/10 to Jev in the low speed sector. I managed to catch back 1/10 on each of the fast part of the track, but not enough to be a few hundreds behind. Nevertheless, I'm satisfied with the result, top 7. I would definitely sign it this morning if somebody gave it to me. And we are in a good position to score points.
Thanks, Lucas.
Thanks.
In a good position to score points then for Lucas de Grassi and for Lola Yamaha apps. That'll be a bit of a delight for them. They've got Johnny Herbert here, team ambassador, this weekend. You were catching up with him over lunch the other day.
Yeah, great to see him here and representing the team as the ambassador. I think never bad to have someone of his career.
I was teammates with him long time ago.
You're not that old, are you, Andre?
He was just at the end of his Formula 1 career at Jaguar when I was a young test driver there. And that was back in
2000.
End of 2000,
yeah.
The first time I drove the F1 car. The Barcelona test at the end of the year, and I think that was his last season, maybe.
Yeah, he retired after Malaysia 2000.
Yeah.
Of all the innate Formula 1 knowledge I've got in my head, for some reason, I remember that. But there we go. Anyway, over to the semi-finals here in Tokyo. Jean-Eric Vergne versus Oliver. Imagine the momentum would be with Oliver Rowland given his performances so far. He started on pole position for the previous 2 races in Formula E, and he's been on the front row a further 3 times following that. Jean-Eric Vergne, meanwhile, has only had 1 top 3 start. That was back in Mexico in January. Let's see how this one works out. So let's remind you how we got here then for the semi-finals. We had the quarterfinals a few moments ago. It was Rowland versus Nato, Vergne versus de Grassi, Ticktum versus Mortara, and da Costa versus Wehrlein. The upshot is, in the semi-finals, we have Vergne and Rowland going head-to-head, and then Wehrlein versus Ticktum. Very excited for that one. 2 drivers will go through and into the finals. That will decide who lines up where on the front row of the grid ahead of round 9 this afternoon. So Vergne versus Rowland then, DS Penske versus Nissan. And an absolute whitewash in terms of the Formula E predictor. 91% reckon that it's going to be Rowland that will out-qualify the Frenchman.
Sure, but there's a reason why Jean-Eric Vergne has the most poles in Formula E history.
There's a reason why he's here, up against Oliver Rowland as well, let's be fair. So, out of the pit lane these drivers will come. And we saw actually Pascal Wehrlein a few moments ago keeping a lot of heat into the tyres, or trying to at least, on that cool-down lap. Because it's absolutely critical here, tyre temperature, getting those in the right working window.
Yeah, we didn't get to see what the others were doing on their in-laps, unfortunately, but it would be interesting to see if the others were doing the same. You can see already Jean-Eric really working those front tyres hard.
Yeah, it's really crucial to get front temperature in for the first sector with around these twisty turns to get the car rotated and to be able to go as quick as possible and early as possible on the power, because with the four-wheel drive you really want to shoot out of the corners, and if you're not straight enough, probably your traction control settings are not freeing up that power, so it's really important to rotate the car.
Well, in terms of the lap times for the quarters a few moments ago, Roland was a 1:12.375, Verne was a 1:12.681. So advantage with Roland in terms of the pace, at least for the last few moments ago. He's reached the dual semi-finals for the 7th time in 8 opportunities. This year has Oliver Roland, the best average qualifier in Formula E for season 11.
Yeah, phenomenal form from Oliver Roland so far this season. And that being said, Jean-Eric is the one coming back into a strong point of his career. He's been delivering great results recently, and he can definitely take the challenge to Oliver Roland.
Just seeing the eyes there of Jay Penske, see the shades of Jay Penske. You should play poker with those shades on, shouldn't you? Because you've got no idea what his expression is. Anyway, across the timeline we go here for Jean-Eric Verne, down towards the first corner as he seeks his first front row start of season 11 in Formula E. Through turn 2 we go as Roland...
Yeah, and he's kept a nice run so far. So Jeff v Roland, this is going to be an interesting little one. Roland was fastest, 1:12.375. Verne was 1:12.681. So Roland should be faster if he can keep it. But now, of course, we're at 350 kilowatts of power with four-wheel drive. That's what we were in the quarterfinals. First sector time then. Verne is a 29.872. Roland 29.679. So he is faster. Second sector for Verne is a 19.383. We'll wait for Roland, but he's currently 2 tenths up at the moment. 19.228, 3.5 tenths up. Roland is flying right now. The championship leader is in all sorts of pickle and runs, and he's really going to be in for a good shot here at going into the final and getting back-to-back pole positions. He only got 3 points for that yesterday without even having to do much. That because he went off practice 2 times. 1:12.602 from Jean-Eric Verne. Here we go then for Ollie Roland. 5 tenths up on the last corner, over the line. And it's a 1:12.007 for Britain's Oliver Roland. He is through to the final with a stunning lap time.
Massive lap from him. I mean, we haven't seen the lap times getting down there. I wonder if we're going to see a 1:11 soon, Tom.
You can also see the commitment he has and the feeling in the grip. It visually almost looks different. He can really push the car and being really aggressive, and the direction changes are good. So there's definitely something there that they figured out with not only tires, but the whole package is really functioning very well. And especially for Roland, like the car gives him so much confidence, and with his car control, he can really play with it.
So then, semi-final 2, Pascal Wehrlein versus Dan Ticktum. Tag Heuer Porsche versus Cupra Kiro Porsche. Ticktum was actually quicker than Wehrlein, I should say.
10.7, Nico, you can release. So tires are quite a bit warmer, so your out lap doesn't need as much of a push. I mean, you do what you feel, but they're on the warm side now.
That's courtesy of his fast in-lap, one presumes, where he's managed to keep the temperature on the surface of the tyre whilst he's been sat there in the pit box.
Yeah, let's see what he's got for Dan Ticktum.
As I said, Ticktum the quicker of the 2 in the quarter-finals. Now they're going head-to-head against one another here in semi-final 2. Down towards T1, bit of oversteer on the entry there for Ticktum. We've got a side-by-side comparison here, though he's slowed down Pascal Wehrlein's lap, so we can now see exactly who is going to have the advantage.
Ticktum slightly closer to the walls. He goes a little bit wider at the apex turn 4, but comes back and gets a second apex. It does look very nice from Ticktum, I have to say. He's got great lines through this first sector of the lap.
Yeah, it's very tight between them at the moment, and gap now coming through. Wehrlein, first sector, is a 29.757. Ticktum is 29.718, and 39,000 between them at the moment. It's quite close. Sector 2 for Wehrlein is a 19.197. Sector 3, 23.235. Wehrlein's time is a 1:12.189. What are we going to see from Dan Ticktum? Is he up? Sector 2 is a 1:19.145. It's a 10.5 faster over the 2 sectors so far. Ticktum might just get this one by a fraction, and we will have an all-British row 1 here in Japan. Will it be Tictum or Roland that will go for pole position, because Tictum over the line is a 1:12.028. It's a British final here in Tokyo, and through goes the Cooper Cairo of Dan Tictum. Moan Jester, the car wasn't there. He's got it back today. It's a British final in Tokyo.
Finals and the fight for pole position.
That was a brilliant comparison there, having the onboard side by side, because you could see how well Dan Tictum was driving. He was so close to the walls everywhere.
Yeah, well done. Mega, well done. Yeah, 1.5 tenths. Very, very good lap.
A really strong performance there from Dan Tictum, because I tell you what, Pascal Verlang is not a bad qualifier, and it is the works team. So with the powertrain from last year, and he's really nailing it, and you know, built his confidence with the previous lap before on the first duel, and yeah, really putting it all together. And yeah, I wish he can do pole position. He deserves it.
Yeah, the lines in the first sector where he was just hitting every apex. He was so close to all. He's traveling the minimum distance around these slow corners. But also the fact that just here where we see him coming in turn 4, he gets the first apex a little bit wide and rotates the car beautifully to get that second apex. I mean, the end of the lap, Dan was driving brilliantly. It's great to see him on such strong form.
We saw him giving it the berries on the in lap as well.
Very good lap, mate. Very good lap. Think about your tyres.
So a bit of a delayed team radio message there for Oliver Rowland as he gets ready to challenge for pole position, and we'll see how this one is going to work out. Let's remind you of how we got here in the in the qualifying duels. In the quarterfinals, it was Rowland versus Nato, Verne versus Degrassi, Tictum and Mortara, Da Costa and Verline. Semi-finals, Verne versus Rowland and Verline versus Tictum. The upshot is we now have a final between Oliver Rowland and Dan Tictum. Rowland seeking pole position here this season, and Tictum seeking his first ever pole position in Formula E.
TNT Sports.
That'll be the third time that Rowland will have started from pole in season 11. The second time that he has taken it in qualifying, because he did it in Monaco. Of course, he started from pole position here yesterday, but that was a bit by de facto, really, because qualifying was cancelled courtesy of the inclement weather.
Oh yes, but he also nailed the lap in the free practice session to make sure that he started on pole position should it have been cancelled.
Very good point, very good point. Let's have a look at the race results there for Dan Tictum. You can see it's been a steady rate of progression over the course of this year.
No, he's been beautifully building into it. I mean, race 2 in Monaco, bit unlucky. Had a few issues there in the qualifying and things like that. But the team themselves are really building into this. Dan's shaping the team around him, and he's just going from strength to strength. And to see the team delivering this in their first season with the new powertrain, in their new disguise, basically, they're doing beautifully.
Yeah, it's really working quite nicely. The best that Tictum has lined up on the grid prior to this weekend was third last time out in Monaco. That was his best ever qualifying in his nearly enough 50 race Formula E career, or over 50 race Formula E career now, I should say. And he'll be vying for his first ever pole position. Whatever happens, it will be a career best qualifying for the Britain's corner, seemingly after the semis.
Yeah, I mean, he honestly, there was nothing to fault on that lap. It looked like he got everything out of it. Oliver Rowland was slightly faster in his semi-final, so as well, the two of them driving beautifully. It's going to be such a privilege for us to watch this head-to-head battle to see who gets pole position.
Can we break into the 1:11 barrier? We were 7,000ths of a second away with Rowland in the semis.
We will definitely see whoever's on pole going into the 1:11, I think.
Yeah, I'm keen to see how that one is going to play out. You can see what it means for Cooper Cairo, and it's amazing how quickly your expectations change in the racing world, isn't it? If you remember 12 months ago, they'd have been delighted to get out of the group stages when they were in ERT. Now they're getting through into the duels and now challenging for pole.
Yeah, completely, and it was part of the strategy, I think, of the team to get a good powertrain for the whole team, and build from there and start to understand all the systems and everything. And Tictum and the team is doing a great job, and yeah, that is the result today. It's just David Beckman struggling to follow the trend, but yeah, I think we will see a great show now, and we've seen it coming also in Monaco. He showed great performance, and he's such a passionate racer, Dan Tictum. I mean, he loves the street circuit. He has a great car control, and he definitely wants to be a big player in this championship.
So, carry on.
He's been a bit misunderstood, but it's great to see him now delivering that and being able to show his passion in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly can. So, Dan Ticktum versus Oliver Rowland. This is going to be hugely exciting to see who will take pole position here for round 9. The fans watching on be their home team Nissan on pole position, or will Dan Ticktum upset the order for Cooper Kiro and get his first ever pole in Formula E history? We'll find out in a few moments' time. Let's have a look at Ticktum's lap then from the semi-finals. Not the quickest time.
He breaks super late here and he just makes the apex. He was really on the ragged edge as he came in. Now coming here through 2 and 3, beautiful apex, millimetres from the wall. Gets the first apex here in turn 4, a little bit wide, but rotates the car nicely and gets back to the apex on the exit. Nice and tight here into 5 and 6, and then 7 and 8, also super nice and clean.
The car rotates really well. It looks like he's got his brake settings dialed in right. For example, turn 1, where the car just oversteered a bit, but he made the apex, so it's really important to rotate the car and pointing it straight to put this all-wheel drive power on the road. Here, very precise through the chicane. You have to focus on the exit there and back on the power, close to the wall, and yeah, everything tied together nicely, no mistakes, and that's how you put a lap together in Formula E.
Yeah, exit of turn 15 here, right up against the wall. This was a moment where, you know, it's win or bust, really, and he carries the right amount of speed in. Just a small correction there in the middle of turn 16. Gets the apex perfectly in 17, rotates through 18, very tight to the wall, good exit, and that's how you drive a lap of Tokyo.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Dan Ticktum, and that was his fastest lap time in the semi-finals. As we said, he is guaranteed a career best start, whatever happens here for this one, but can he get it on pole position? Interestingly, it'll be the first pole for this team under any guise since season 3.
Can you plug in and check if I accidentally had X-ray 1 on? I think we may have just flicked it just now, but just check if you can.
Yeah, copy, will do.
X-ray 1, any
I know
ideas?
what that is, because I raced for Porsche. So
what is it, Andre?
So you're basically flicking through one setting to the other to change the brake balance. You can create a different brake migration and different brake balance. So depending on the cone and nature, you flick that on and then you have a better brake balance.
So as the drivers exit out onto pit road, let's remind you of how we got here for the dual finals for round 9 in Tokyo. Rowland versus Nato up first, then it was Vernon de Grassi, Ticktum and Mortara, Da Costa versus Verline. In the semi-finals, it was Vernon Rowland. Rowland made it through, and then Verline versus Ticktum. Ticktum out-qualifying the factory Porsche here in Japan. The upshot is, it is Oliver Rowland who's vying for his 3rd pole position of season 11, and Ticktum, who is looking for his first ever pole in Formula E history. And how is this one going to work out? Ticktum versus Rowland, Cooper Kiro versus Nissan. The momentum on the Formula E predictor is with Oliver Rowland.
Well, I disagree with that. I think Ticktum's got just as much chance. I would give it 50-50 heading into this one.
Well, pensive faces, I'm sure, down in Cooper Kiro. As I mentioned earlier on, this will be the first pole position for that team since season 3, when they were known as Next EV TCR. Ticktum's best ever grid position prior to this weekend was actually in Monaco a fortnight ago, and it was 3rd on the grid. And now he has got a real opportunity to bring that independent team up to the sharp end and claim pole position.
This is going to be so exciting. I can't wait to see these two drivers who have been so precise this weekend, going for it head-to-head. Only in Formula E we have qualifying like this. It's going to be a beautiful moment.
The cool thing about this duel is, like, the drivers are mentally quite free, you know, they're not so much under pressure. Of course you want to have pole position, but worst case, you're going to start in 2nd place. So you have that pressure off your shoulder, and sometimes that's when you do the best performance.
So Ticktum then on his build lap here. 1 push lap to come for the drivers in this session. 350 kilowatts of power, all-wheel drive to remind you as well. Will Nissan do a double pole position in their backyard here in Tokyo, or will we see the Cooper Kiro being able to get themselves up there and out-qualify the championship leader? If Rowland takes pole, it will increase his championship lead up to 63 points clear at the halfway stage of season 11. So coming down through turn 16 and in towards the final corner we go.
Yeah, and Tictum's out first then on this run. He'll start the flag green, and we are go for the final here in Tokyo for qualifying. 63 points could be the gap in the championship. That'd be something. Remember, we've only really had one qualifying because yesterday's got cancelled. We were sitting around waiting for 40 minutes, and then we got the green that we will go on qualifying to practice 2 times. Now, however, the action is in, and it is so tight already in that first sector. Tictum is going to be a 29.574. Roland's 9,000th down. Is it going to be the Cupra on pole, or is Roland going to sweep it? Right now, Roland is it's a 29.696. Tictum's up by a 10.5 so far. Is Dan Tictum really about to show us what he's got to do here as they come through in the last 2 corners? Down we come on the brakes. Roland turns in through the chicane. 1, 2, does it well. Through 3, holds the outside line. What's up with Tictum? Tictum's hit the wall! Tictum's hit the wall coming out of turn 15. Dan Tictum has hit the wall. Now that is unbelievable. Tictum is not going to be on pole position for this race. He'll have to cross the line. He'll start second. Tictum crawling to the line. And Ollie Roland is going to take pole position. Back to back. It's happened again. Another crazy qualifying in Formula E. Roland crosses the line and it's pole position. 1:12.615. Tictum will start second, but wow!
Big lap.
I think he overshot turn 15 maybe, and then he aborted.
Cut the corner,
I would love to see what happened because, I mean, Sector 1 and Sector 2, fastest we've seen of anyone all weekend. He was clearly on the ragged edge, but it was beautiful to watch up until that point.
So clean, everything, breaking into turn 1, not any correction or anything. If you look how Roland was fighting.
So then, Oliver Roland takes pole position number 3 of season 11 here in Tokyo. It is Nissan once again who will start from the head of the grid for round 9. Tictum in the wall, drama aplenty, and I'm sure more drama to come for the E-Prix here this afternoon in Japan.
Try to close it up. No, you... Yeah, try to close it up. No, you can't care about then.
No, too late now. Sorry.
Crash detected.
Sorry. Was I up or?
You were, yeah.
Wow.
So Tictum then in the wall, crash detected written on the dash, and well, it's lit up like a Christmas tree, hasn't it, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. We were so excited to see that lap. He did
Here we go.
right until that moment.
The lap of Roland was not even that fast.
Whacks the wall out 15.
Big impact there on the exit of turn 15. He's just taken a little bit too much speed into the corner.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. Oof. Oh, he got on the throttle. So even when he knew he wasn't going to make the corner, he wasn't going to make the apex, he got on the throttle, and he is just, when you're offline, it's a little bit dusty there. With the four-wheel drive also, don't forget, you get pulled out because you're using the front wheels, not only...
Oh, and there goes both
the wall
TV
on the exit there. A little bit wide, dusty. Oh, yeah. I think if it was rear-wheel drive only, he might have got away with that because getting on the power would have rotated the car more. But with the all-wheel drive that we've got, when you're in the 350 kilowatts in the duals, you just get pulled into the wall.
Well, there you have it then. Oliver Roland is on pole position for the E-Prix. Join us in 3 hours' time at 6:50 British Summer Time for all of the action. Let's go get some sleep. It's the middle of the night. What a quali. Roland, back-to-back poles. And finally, he gets to do it in style. We'll see you later on. Take care. Bye-bye.